team. I understand they got Jared Goff, and Jared Goff's been excellent this year. He's their best football player. And yesterday, Jared Goff didn't play well. Yesterday, Jared Goff wasn't his sharpest. I don't know if it was the cold conditions in Denver or if it was just an off night. But whatever it was, Gurley was the reason they got out to the 20-3 lead. Gurley was a big reason as to why they were able to hold on to that lead late. He came as close as you can to winning an MVP as a running back these days without rushing for 2,000 yards last year. And he's going to have, it looks like, a similar performance this year, where it's tough at that position to win the MVP, but he is as good of a case as anybody. He's an extraordinary player and was the best player on the field all day yesterday.
A tremendous football player, but also Sean McVay and them, they do a great job of putting him in favorable situations. Why? They run the ball predominantly out of a 3-receiver set. So you could only put so many people, and they do so much motion with the speed sweeps that they have a good game plan for a great player week in and week out, and based on the weather. And the temperature was in the 20s. So for the Rams to get this type of win in Jared Goff, to me, it pays dividends mentally. Long term, can the Rams win in cold weather? That will be questions we'll ask. But now, after getting the win yesterday in Denver, where they had a huge snowfall before the game, it was not the best conditions for an L.A. team. I think this win was more mental than it was what the score was and everything. I think that the Rams will store it away long term and be able to take advantage of it.
See, the first month of the season, Rams were 4-0, but they hadn't left the state of California. They played home games. They had gone to Oakland. The last 2 weeks, in Seattle and in Denver, two of the toughest conditions, two of the toughest environments to play. They win both of those games, despite, in my eyes, not playing their best game. In Seattle, their defense was shaky. In Denver, their passing game was shaky. So this is a great win for the Rams, because this is a game that they can get tripped up in, where Denver, they get out to an early lead, Denver comes back. One note on the Broncos. The Broncos, once again, didn't take a quarterback at number 5, and they're probably going to regret that. But the player they took at 5, Bradley Chubb, he had a monster game yesterday. He had 3 sacks. He showed why a lot of people thought he was going to be the first defensive player taken in the draft.
Yeah, only Nick can give you a compliment and also a knife in your back.
No, it's not Bradley Chubb's fault. My point is, a lot of Bronco fans are mad they didn't take Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I understand.
But they're okay.
Yeah, Nick's right. Yeah.
Compliment sandwich, see?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
One
nice,
undefeated team left in the NFL. And it is the LA Rams. All right, let's move on. Big Ben and the Steelers heading to Cincinnati to take on a very good Bengals team. No Lev Bell, no problem for the Steelers. James Conner, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day, but Cincy hung around. $1:18 left in the game. Joe Mixon scores from 4 yards out. Bengals up 21-20. Steelers driving for the win. Roethlisberger finds Juju Smith-Schuster to put the Steelers in field goal range. Next play, Ben, Antonio Brown. He knows him. He loves him. 31-yard touchdown. Steelers pulling off the 28-21 win. After the game, Roethlisberger talked about his favorite running back, James Conner.
He was a bowling ball today. He was all over the place. What a great game. But, you know, I know it's his last game for us, so because Le'Veon's coming back. But I thought he did well in his last one. I don't know. That's just what I've heard.
Anybody heard anything from him?
Nope. I'm just going off what I hear from reports from you guys.
A few words, but a whole lot of snark out of Ben Roethlisberger. We'll get to the actual game in a second. But, see, what did you make out of Ben's comments there about James Conner?
Oh, nothing. James Conner did play a good game, but Ben, he always adds a little bit. They didn't ask him about it. Like, he just added, just threw it in there at the end. Oh, it's his last game. He's going to retire. Like Ben, it was a good win. But
Ben was responding to the fact that Ben had been criticized by folks on shows like this for what he said last week about James Conner, about going to the coaching staff. More notably, I thought, was Le'Veon Bell actually tweeted about a Steelers game positively. He sent James Conner the power emoji, and on one of his touchdown runs, James Conner said, tweeted back, "I learned it all from you." And so that relationship doesn't seem like it has any issues whatsoever. As far as Big Ben and Le'Veon Bell.
It'd been a lot more powerful if you had been there.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Don't send me no tweet. Just come to work.
So anyway, he's slated to come to work this coming week, which is their bye, and then he will hopefully, he says, take the field in Week 8. All right, what did you take away from this win, CC? It's a good win over a very good Cincinnati Bengals team.
Oh, this was critical. Can you imagine what we would have been opening up the show with if they go to 2-3? Bengals at 5-1? Like, this is a huge win. The Bengals had played, surprisingly, they're one of the 4 or 5 teams that maybe people didn't have their eye on. Really off to a great start. Couldn't secure the win there. They played better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. They deserved the win. They couldn't make enough plays at the end of the game to be able to put Pittsburgh away. And it's Pittsburgh's grip on the AFC Central. And that's how they've had a grip on it on the North for a long, long time. And that's kind of the confidence that they had going into the game. I don't know if the Bengals think they can beat Pittsburgh on a regular basis.
I mean, that's what you saw. Like, the Bengals had a lot of opportunities to take this game and couldn't take advantage of it. Pittsburgh made some mistakes in the red zone. Pittsburgh had what looked like a touchdown. They didn't challenge it. They ended up getting stoned 3 times after they settled for a field goal. And then it opens the door, and the Bengals take the lead. And what's Pittsburgh do? 7 plays, 75 yards in a minute 8. To rip their hearts out. And by the way, they probably didn't even need that final play because they were in field goal range, and Boswell is one of the more solid kickers in the league, even though this year has been a little shaky. But here's the other thing about Pittsburgh, that they now sit at 3-2-1. Last year, they were 4-2. Week 1 of the year, they squeaked out a win in Cleveland, 21-18. This year, they're 3-2-1. The difference between this year and last year, this year, the Week 1 in Cleveland, instead of winning 21-18, they tied it 21 apiece. And last year, Week 6 was a launching point for them. They beat Kansas City. They ended up not losing again until they played New England late in the year in the famous game where Big Ben threw the interception at the end. Like, Pittsburgh got away with a bad start to the season. Now they have a bye. They have back-to-back divisional games coming up. And in a couple weeks, they could be back in first place in the AFC North, where it seems like they and Baltimore are the only 2 teams allowed to finish first in that division.
The concern in the first couple of weeks was this defense and how Pittsburgh just didn't have the defense to match their offense. This is the second week that their defense was able to at least contain. Were you happy with what you saw yesterday?
Well, you have to be happy containing them to 21 points. That's what gave the offense an opportunity to be able to get some momentum late in the game and to be able to steal this win. So, yes, they kept them in the game. Cincinnati had many opportunities to be able to make that margin so decisive that Pittsburgh wouldn't have been on to win at the end, but they couldn't make enough plays. They couldn't make that big play, couldn't get A.J. Green free. So that's how Pittsburgh was able to hang into the game. And when you have a quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger, if you give him enough time, the Bengals try a casino blitz, an all-out blitz at the end. Pittsburgh gets into an audible. They throw a questionable pass. Was it a screen? Was it downfield? That Antonio Brown's able to score a touchdown on.
And the Bengals are being criticized for calling that zero blitz or casino blitz at the end of the game. One of their defenders said, we never even practiced that play. But here's the thing. The Steelers are down 1 in field goal range. The reason you take that chance is because you're trying to sack Big Ben so you can either knock them out of field goal range or make it a much more difficult field goal. So I had no problem with the play call there. To your point about the Steelers' defense, last week, Atlanta, a very potent offense, hold them to 17. Cincinnati's been one of the more underrated offenses in football this year, hold them to 21. They don't need the defense to be great. They just need the defense to be average because we know, even without Le'Veon Bell, the offense is extraordinary. If and when he comes back, now, he hasn't talked to anybody except for Jeremy Fowler, it would appear, but he's supposed to come back this week. Then that's going to be, once again, one of the top 3 or 4 offenses in football.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, what has gone so wrong for the Oakland Raiders? That's next on First Things First. Long list.
Yeah, they hired the coach. That's number 1.
Alphabetized.
Well, let's not skip it.